Greetings, weary travelers, and welcome to the Artcasters annual Halloween special. I'm your host, a second-rate impersonation of Vincent Price. We have an esteemed panel of guests, which we'll get to momentarily. But first, need I not remind you that we approach Halloween, a night where ghouls and goblins come out to play, and the midnight hour is close at hand. Actually, for some of you, it might already be past midnight because we are broadcasting live on this night of all nights. So, first, let us do what we always do and go around the room and introduce ourselves. We already know who I am, but everyone has something that they'd like to talk about. So, let me introduce our sponsors. Our first sponsor today is Chesterfield Cigarettes. Recommended by more doctors than any other brand of cigarettes, Chesterfield. When you reach for Chesterfield, you're reaching for the best. And Hoover brand canned hams. One bite and you'll say, Hoover, damn! That's a good canned ham. And now we introduce our esteemed panel of guests. First, I would like to introduce to you an author known for his stories of death. Well, maybe not death, but despair and heartbreak and woe and all of those sad things. May I introduce to you the author of such fine graphic novels as Jacob's Apartment and Two Stories, Joshua Krimble.
Yes, Kremble could not appear. I am Frederick Nietzsche.
So sad to hear it.
I just thought I would appear here to talk about the purposelessness and doom that awaits you all after your death.
Well, that's quite fitting for a night like tonight.
Yes.
But now, do you have anything? Would you like to promote any of Josh's work, Mr. Nietzsche?
Yes, I believe Joshua Kemble has a book that is very sad and fits the fulfilling need to make purpose, called Jacob's Apartment, as well as another book called Two Stories that's a autobiographical work that talks about different depressing things. Yes. And those are all books, as well as music by No Saboteurs.
Fantastic.
Yes.
All right, on to our next panel guest. You may find him walking up and down the streets, prophesizing the end of humanity. Oh, I lost my earphone. Hold on. Where did it go? I can't hear anyone. Hold on one second. There we go. Just a little bit of technical difficulties. And as I said, you may find this gentleman walking up and down the street or the internet, prophesizing the end of humanity due to the machines. I give you the Doomsayer. What say you, Doomsayer, Corey Kerr?
I say, if you'd like to hear me say some doom, you got to get on my email list because I'll be releasing more doom sayings soon.
Perfect. Any other thing you would like to promote, Mr. Corey Kerr?
No, it's all there in the email newsletter. So I've got another one coming out probably tonight. So
perfect. And now to our special guest, which you may find on our channel almost every Halloween. Now, this person is an artist of quite some note, and his subject matter is that of doom and death and all of those gruesome, nasty things. So much, in fact, that maybe he should change his name to David Black Hartman. Mr. David Hartman.
Hello. All right, now I got to breathe. Breaking character.
I knew he was under there somewhere. So, David, where can everyone find your fine illustrations and all the amazing things you have in the works, which we will talk about in this show?
Yes. But you can go to sideshowmonkey.com, and I might update it sometime this year.
before the year's over. I still got a few months to update my website, but got lots of stuff coming out. Books, more music, TV shows, all kinds of stuff.
Awesome, and we shall certainly get into that. And why don't we do that now? So,
Yes.
David, you're champing at the bit to get into the conversation and talk about yourself, I see.
Excited and scared.
All right, so David, one of the things that I've been noticing is that you have been posting some things on social media, particularly a little channel called Facebook, which I am, it must be something with the young people. I'm not too quite familiar with it. I think it may have came, out after I have passed away, but I'm back, so. But anyway, so you are working on something called, what is it called? It's some
Monstroween.
Octoberween. Now I've heard of Inktober, and I've heard of Drawtober, and I've heard of Drawloween, but I've never heard of Octoberween. And why are there so many of these drawing challenges around October in particular, I wonder?
I wonder that too. Mine is called Monstroween.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Monstroween.
It's okay, Vince.
So that is yet a fourth one that I have just introduced to. It's hard to keep track of them all.
More. Well, I just do mine strictly for monsters because I wanted to do Inktober and many of the drawing prompts, but I usually wasn't always into the prompts that they gave. I kind of wanted something a little more, fun. So I just like drawing weird monsters. So I thought I would share some of mine, creature from Neptune. Like this year I had the grave robbing Yeti, just stuff like that kind of inspire people and just have fun drawing some B-movie level monsters. Right. And, it's mainly on Instagram. I do post on Facebook, but Instagram's where it's gets the most coverage and most people participating, which is a lot of fun. This is the third year doing it. So, but I just did it as for giggles a couple years ago, and I didn't expect anyone to partake in it. It was just me using it as an excuse to draw a monster one every day and be a little bit more sketchy about it. So, like literally sketchy and rough drawing, not sketchy like I'm a scammer. But
sketchy is also very appropriate for this time.
Yes. But anyhow, more and more people partook in it than I thought they would. So I don't know. I've just been making a habit out of it. See how long it goes.
Well, it seems like it's going quite fine. And if you want a small example, you can look at the artwork on this particular thumbnail of this episode, and you will see one of those sketches featuring what looks like a monster is fallen out of, like a zombie is fallen out of a cauldron, stirred up by witches.
And the creeping corpse from the cauldron, I think that one was.
Yes, and it seems like each one of these seems like it has a title that could be inspired by a movie, which coincidentally is one of the things we're going to talk about tonight, because we want to talk about our influences, particularly when it comes to horror or Halloween or those type of spooky things. So, David.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. I know, because you've been on this show for the past, 3 Halloweens, plus other episodes as well. Yeah. You even came on here and did an episode where you drew a comic page in the matter of the hour and a half that we were on the air, which was quite impressive, if I do say so myself.
Thank you.
Now, when you look at most people would go crazy with the amount of what looks like it would take you to do one of these every single day of this challenge. But knowing how fast you work, and it's quite mesmerizing to watch, I must admit. But I wonder, have you always, I assume from a young lad, you've always been drawing and you've always been inspired by Halloween. So if you could take us back maybe, and what was the first inspiration that had to do maybe with horror or Halloween that inspired you? I mean, look at this is, once again, as we must remind everyone, every single year, this background that you have behind you is not just for tonight. It's not a special occasion.
All year.
This is your everyday studio. This is what you wake up with. So do you ever take a nap in your studio and wake up and like, where am I? Oh my God. I've been doing horror movies for quite a while, but I still get quite a fright when I see things like that.
Yes, like when I was a kid, I mean, I'm from Ohio, which many from the Midwest will know. Everything's like haunted, everything's older. Halloween when I was a kid was like a really big deal, right? Like all the houses decorate all down the street, stores, every store is partaking in it. Christmas decorations are not being sold yet, until late November. And everything to me was horror. I've told this story before where I've gotten a Fangoria magazine, issue number 2, when I was about 7 years old, I think 7 or 8. My mom got it for me, and that totally, I think, started me down the line of horror. Then I would go to the Ohio State Fair, and in the late end of the 70s into the early 80s, they still had sideshows, where you could see 2-headed stuffed calves and stuff like that. And that stuff always fascinated me. So I was, as far back as I can remember, I was into horror. All my early drawings were horror. And I even had one, I think one of my earliest comic books, I still got to find it. It's somewhere in this house. I did it with crayon. It was called The Exorcist 306. And it was supposed to be this 306 sequel to The Exorcist movie. And I drew it like it was 3D. So I used a blue crayon and a red crayon, and I had 3D glasses.
I remember doing that myself as a lad.
Yes. So when the creature would vomit, because that's what you do.
Of course.
The goal was to make it come at you, So that's one of my earliest memories. But yes, horror has always been a big part.
You know what I find most fascinating about that story is that your mother bought you your first issue of Fangoria. I had to kind of sneak those in.
Yeah, my parents, I'm very fortunate. My dad was a sci-fi buff. They were both collectors of baseball cards, and my dad really, kind of believed in that stuff. But they knew I was going to be in art. They didn't necessarily like my subject matter, but they even sent me to a private art teacher once to break me of the habit of drawing monsters and stuff. So they had me doing landscapes and stuff like that. But I would always draw Bigfoot, zombies, stuff in there. I just remember the teacher, tell my parents there's nothing I can do. So, they're like, he's either going to go to jail someday or he's going to move to Hollywood. So luckily it was the latter.
Yes, and I admire that encouragement of the arts. If anyone knows, I, Vincent Price, am a fine connoisseur or quite a connoisseur of the arts, having quite a collection myself and have been a patronage of the arts and all of that. And I always find it rather reassuring when I hear that that parents are encouraging young minds to become creative and be artists. And I think you can tell by your career path how that helps when you have supportive people, even if maybe they didn't want you to specifically draw monsters and frightful things like that.
Yes. And we would go to like flea markets, and my dad we would usually leave with a white box of comics, right? And I would say it was interesting because probably about 90% of the box when we got home, it was a lot of what at the time, I guess, were considered the unwanted comics, which were Tales from the Unexpected, House of Mystery, all the DC horror titles and Marvel titles, and surprisingly that, and then like Mad magazines. And I kind of grew up with those more. And even though I had tons of superhero books and I loved them, I still gravitated more towards the horror books for some reason. Maybe because they were shorter stories and I could just, read one in one sitting. I'm not sure. But yeah, I gravitated towards those more than I did the superhero stuff.
Yes, fantastic. Now, let me and feel free. Anyone else? I don't want to monopolize the conversation
Vincent, you're
here.
doing
So,
so good.
if anyone wants to join in, please.
I
If
think
anyone
we're all
has any
just waiting
questions
for
David.
waiting for Scott to speak more. I think that's.
I know.
Oh, sorry.
Let's see where this goes.
I don't know. I'm not sure who this Scott character is. When he shows up, I'll be happy to greet him.
I get confused sometimes, Vincent. I apologize.
Now I just saw what you put there, Corey, on as far as your name.
Yeah, right.
Chuckle there.
I
Oh,
Yeah, I was
was
like, why
creative
are
with the-
Corey moving?
That's a good question, actually. Corey, are you
Yeah,
okay?
he's just pensive.
Oh yes,
Uh,
he is still.
Did I freeze again?
It's no wonder because you're sitting in a garage that you have frozen
Yeah.
to death.
I know,
Possibly.
You're just in this pose. Let's see if we can match it here.
Oh no, am I still frozen? Can you guys hear
Yes,
me?
Yeah.
you might have to hop out and hop back on again.
All right,
I kind of
let's
want to
do that.
try Corey's new conversational technique and just see if he could do this without, like,
Now, okay, so back to the conversation. If no one else has any questions for David, so one of the things you wanted to talk about, well, we would just basically you have your hands in so many different pies right now as far as creatives. I mean, you're working on comics, you are a director of animation and live action, and actually the sequel to a very popular horror franchise. So first of all, I'm curious where you have the time to do all this stuff and take on these challenges. I know I quit when I get super busy. I quit any kind of art challenges. I figured, of course, I have never started my own, which is a little different story. But it fascinates me now. Obviously, like we've discussed before, you work rather quickly, so that's part of it. I'm sure is the speed at which you work. But I'm just kind of curious how you juggle all these different projects.
I'm not totally sure. I don't really do anything else. That's about it.
yeah.
Doing a drawing challenge. Every single one of those, I draw one every day. Get up when I'm up in the morning. I'm sitting in bed, pull up the iPad on my lap, and then I do the drawing for the day. I know I'm going to draw a monster every day, regardless of how much other work I do. So, making it the art challenge is kind of pushing myself too. But I get kicks out of seeing other people's drawings of these prompts I come up with, and some that are, the challenge, the best of them, right? And just, see people's different takes on things. But, as far as juggling all these things, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I compartmentalize in my brain a little bit. I go do my normal job. I'm doing animation, all that. But, there are breaks that are taken in between meetings and stuff like that. And I usually just pick up the iPad and start working on, another project that I'm trying to do. I've been fortunate enough that I can change gears quickly and be inspired enough to keep on doing it. So I haven't burned out on that yet for the last, however many 100 years. But it's a tough question, Vincent, because I'm not totally sure. I just know multitasking is good and time management. can play a part in that.
So was that? I've got a question. Was that the ability to kind of just jump into something else? Is that a learned behavior? Or have you always been able to do that? Because I know that for a lot of people, myself included, I've always got a little bit of that kind of warm up, ramp up stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think
task
it's a little bit of both, Corey. Like for me, I've always been able to do that, at least mediums wise, like doing the movie to this, definitely, because they're all kind of the genres I'm in are all very similar, right? Very horror, sci-fi. That's not a big leap. If I was doing more of commercial illustration or something, that might be a different story. But you know, as far as being in genre, that's not a big thing. The learned part just comes from you know, the confidence you get of drawing for so many years and then reaching that point of this is how I draw, take it or leave it kind of mentality. And it wasn't until I kind of reached that point that I became comfortable with my own drawing. I was always worried about style and what's my look and stuff, you know, in college, and being depressed because I didn't really have a look, and we're all expected to draw like Image Comics 1999 at the time, right? And then, you know, then once I kind of stopped caring and just went back to enjoying drawing and drawing the things I love, which is monsters, horror. Don't worry, for me, it wasn't like, I got to keep drawing Iron Man because, you know, that's what I'm hoping to get and land a job. For me, it was more of, I was fortunate I had a job. I got a job in animation doing storyboards. That was my bread and butter. So you know, when I had drawing time for myself, I'll draw what I want. And I've been very fortunate. And then that, you know, once I kind of stopped caring, people started noticing, right? That's when I, you know, started building a small fan base, and people, I think like Rob Zombie saw my stuff on DeviantArt or something, you know, and it wasn't until then that I kind of developed this style, which did allow me to draw fast and be very free, I feel, in my drawing, where I'm not too hung up on the technical side of things. I just like to draw.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's kind of like something like that definitely translates in your work, because like some of my favorite stuff you've done are just these parody covers with this character Gorbo that you keep doing, and I want you to make that into a book. It's just
I've been
so
thinking
fun.
about doing it. I might have to, because I could draw that stuff super fast. But yeah, that was like my homage to the old Gold Key comics.
I love them.
You know, the old Disney Gold Key or even the Harvey comics and stuff. And yeah, you know, it just made me think of, since we're talking about kind of inspirations and influences, one other thing I've been doing, Vincent, is I do this thing called Cover of a Cover, where I take like
yes, I've seen those. I
Yeah.
enjoy those quite a bit.
Yeah, so again, those are not me trying to rip off something grand, but it was more of a cover I remember as a kid that influenced me, where I had these issues of the books and I would just sit in bed. I mean, just being an 8-year-old and remember fixing some microwave popcorn and a glass of Pepsi that was like, you know, half a gallon, and just sitting in bed reading these comics or just staring at the covers until I fall asleep, you know. And so I don't know, to capture that kind of magic again, I just been taking these covers that I love and just drawing my versions of them. They're not meant to be like, hey, this was bad, look how great I am. It was more of you know, this meant a lot to me. This is an homage to, you know, Mike Plug doing some Werewolf by Night, or you know, Wrightson or whoever. But I also do a lot of Casper, you know, even did Richie Rich and Scooby Doo, because those are more books that were in those boxes that were, I guess, considered throwaway comics. But I really got into the Harvey comics and Archie. I'm not sure why. They are totally not real horror, but it did have ghosts and stuff like that. And I think that's where Gorbo came from, Josh. It's just my love for those kind of books,
Yeah, I just love that you take him and put him in situations that would be in like an Archie comic.
Right, like he's got 2 dates for prom. What's he gonna do? But yet he's this completely malformed, disgusting looking creature. That's like, how did he even get this far?
So good. I think that it's like I can tell you're enjoying it when I see your work. Like it's fun to look at because I can tell you're having fun with it, and I think that's what translates so well with your style.
No, thank you. I mean, if most of this stuff is drawing for myself, right? So, maybe sometimes my work stuff isn't like that, because maybe that's the stuff that gets me, into that work mode a little bit. But with this stuff, I'm only drawing things I really care about or love.
Yes.
And if I'm just drawing this zombies every freaking day, and that people are like, oh, I'm so tired of zombies, I don't care. That's what I enjoy drawing, the human anatomy decomposing, so there's something interesting about it to me. So I'll just keep doing it.
I have a friend named Scott who's really into drawing zombies.
I know.
I've heard of this gentleman. Yeah. But I wanted to say there's so much I want to loop back around and talk about with David that he's mentioned and brought up. But one of the things you talk about, the drawing the things you love and the things you were fascinated with as a youth and that you grew up with, and that you're a big fan of monsters. But we do have a couple of questions for you. First of all is from a young Jim Lujan, who asks, is your favorite monster also your favorite monster to draw?
That is true. Yes, Frankenstein's monster. By far my favorite.
I could have guessed that.
Yes, I can't show you now, but this whole wall over here is literally just hundreds of Frankenstein monsters. So
let me ask you this, David. Do your drawings of Frankenstein usually, is there a certain style you like to draw a Frankenstein in, or is each drawing a different way
I change it up sometimes to different versions of them. There's like the Hammer Films version, which didn't necessarily look like the classic, and there's the Universal monster, there's even Bernie Wrightson's version, which is pretty iconic now. So to me, again, it's I love Frankenstein's monster because he's a little bit sympathetic of a monster, not unlike Gorbo, where he's stuck in these situations where maybe he doesn't necessarily mean harm, but he's built that way. It's not his fault he got a bad brain. So I totally love drawing those kind of creatures. And I try to give most of my monsters, at least I'm trying, it may not be seen that way, but I try to give them some sort of personality. They all got some weakness. They all love something,
Yes. And speaking of Frankenstein, we have a question from another Frank Salazar, who wants to know, will David be drawing a graphic novel on camera tonight?
I could. It'd be a bad one, but I am drawing slowly.
I don't think he's talking about drawing a page of a graphic novel.
I know the whole thing.
And when you say you could, I'm pretty sure you're answering the question as it was intended. So my other question, let me, if I can recall what I was thinking. Oh, going back to the homage covers that you are doing, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you've looked at what's going on now in the comic book space with the variant covers that are so popular, many artists are actually doing these homage covers, and I'm sure no one really looks at them as oh, I'm trying to improve on that, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But I do see a lot of this, and I was just wondering, have you been approached to do covers like this, and and eventually we want to get into the book that you're working on, at least what you can talk about. But
yeah, well, I mean, I've been approached, but not by the big two. But I've been given indirectly people telling me, talk to this person, talk to that person, show them your stuff. You should be doing a lot of these variant covers and stuff. And I don't know. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I got to do that. But I'm really kind of bad at self promotion because I'm too busy just enjoying drawing monsters that I don't do a good job, trying to get work with them.
Well, it seems yeah. If you're busy enough, you probably don't need to. And what I've kind of found out is that the more you don't need the work, the more people will approach you and ask you for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind
when
of
it rains, it pours.
Exactly. So I'm sure some of that stuff will probably come your way, being that the kind of and a lot of people, like you said, just doing these images and posting them, people tend to come across them and and then they're like, oh, I would love to either commission to do that for an actual cover or something like that. So
yeah, and I have had several of those, and there are a few comic covers I think coming out in the next year that I've done for some really cool books, who are again not necessarily the big two, but more independent, and I really kind of enjoy doing those. It's a lot of fun. I just wish I had more time to do solely that stuff. Unfortunately, time is scarce at this season. Halloween season's always the big season.
It's not surprising at all, considering your line of work. Now, I wonder if you could go into, I know you do have a comic book project, and I believe you have already announced that it will be coming out from Dark Horse. I don't know how much you can talk about this particular project. But
not really anything yet, except that I'm doing it through Monster Forge Studios, which is Steve Niles and Shannon Eric Denton, both pretty prolific in the comic book world. And Steve, a lot of from like 30 Days of Night, he created that became a movie amongst a million other awesome books. So I've been working with those guys and doing some stuff, and I think they just released, I did a song for them because I do my music stuff too, which is all very horror synth related, called Zorgon, but they released a Zorgon theme song for Monster Forge, which is pretty cool. So
sweet.
Yeah, so that's the book that's out now. I think you can just hear it on Spotify or YouTube or wherever. But the comic itself, I don't think it's been really announced yet. I can't say anything yet, but it's really, I had a lot of fun doing this book, and I co-created it with Shannon and Steve, so it's the three of us kind of collaborating on this, and it was a lot of fun. So I think people will dig it.
Yes. Now, so of all these projects you're working on, some of them you can't really talk about, but is there anything you're working on right now that you just can't wait to get off your chest that you can talk about?
Yeah, there's several. Let me wait, there's the caveat that I can talk about. Well, I'm doing some
this
stuff.
This is going to be an awfully short show if you can't talk about anything.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the problem with my job, is all those non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah.
But you don't have anything that's coming out in the near future that has been announced, or?
Let me see. Well, I'm working on the Arc television series off the video game. I think I talked about that last time, but we're much further along in post now. I'm not sure where that's going to stream yet, but it's off the hit video game. And it's like a huge cast with like Russell Crowe, and we got Gerard Butler, David Tennant, Michelle Yao. So that's pretty big, and that's working with Wildcard Studios, the creators of the game. And so that'll be released at some point. The trailer is out. which you can see. I'm trying to think what else. I know there's something. I know, Vincent, there's something I can talk about. I'm trying to remember. I had 2 board games come out. I think I talked about those, but they're officially out now.
Sweet.
One's called Troll Fest, and it's totally different than my normal stuff. It's D&D. It's Dungeons and Dragons, as if it was you're building a band, but it's kind of in that world. So you can build a band, like a musical band, you know, so you got a vampire drummer, you got a dwarven guitarist and an elfin flutist or whatever, flautist. You got all these, and you're trying to build them up, and you have dragons doing light shows. And it's weird because it's still a little cartoony, but still kind of, my art's still kind of dark, I think. So if you look that up, it's called Troll Fest, and it came out from Trick or Treat Studios. And I did another board game for them called Blood Orders, and it's a vampire-based game. In both games, I did probably 200 plus illustrations for.
Wow.
All the cards, all the game board. I've never done board games before, so I mean, it was probably a little bit more work than I thought it would be for amount that it is to do that many illustrations. But again, you know, the iPad, sitting in bed in the morning, you know, that's when I get that kind of stuff done.
Take note, all you artists out there, when you wake up in the morning and scroll through your Instagram and your TikToks, this gentleman is out here pumping out artwork for board games.
Well, I will say this. I'm no longer a night owl. So I used to be the guy that I would just stay up all night and draw, right? Because the world is quiet. You're not being interrupted. The phone's not ringing. You don't have real life knocking on your door. And I could just listen to music or put on a movie and draw throughout the night. Then you reach a point where you have a child, and you're forced to get up really early in the morning. Once that happened, my body kind of shifted to that timeline, and I actually realized I'm at my most productive and creative early in the morning, and I like to get a lot done early, so that when I do get through the middle of the day, I realize, you know, I get actually really creatively tired around 3 p.m., 4 p.m. And if I'm trying to be creative during that time, I know I'm just going to end up redoing that work because I'm just going to kind of put out crap during that time, right? Because I'm just forcing myself to do it because of deadlines. So I kind of learned where my natural schedule is of when my brain is the most active and when I'll probably do the best work. And I've kind of forced my life around that schedule to work, right? So it's pretty interesting. I kind of wish I knew that when I was in college. You know, I got up early and did my homework instead of waiting until 3 a.m. to start it. But I think that's important for people, to learn when you're most creative and how you can apply that to your work schedule. And maybe that will help too with any burden of deadlines with artwork and how that can weigh you down because you're not fighting yourself so much to just hit a deadline, right? So, and then, because then you're always thinking, it's like, oh, I had to do bills today, I had to do this, I had to do that, and now I know I'm going to be up till 4 a.m. drawing this piece, where I prefer to I got a lot done today. I can goof off at 4 p.m. for a while. I'll pick it up at 8 p.m. and work for a couple hours, and I'm still in a good place, right? And I've tried to get into that mindset, and whether it was a kid, but also the job, animation, drawing fast, and you do have deadlines, and you do have to work early in the morning, a lot of it. So, you kind of learn that, but
Yes, and the good thing is not a lot of people are calling you that early in the morning and bothering you with things, so you can get a little bit of a head start. And what you said about wishing you knew this about yourself when you were a lad. I think a lot of younger artists, it might not hurt just to try that out, because I don't think it's unusual that you're productive in the mornings. I think a lot of people probably are, but maybe they haven't just even gave it a shot or tried it out.
Like the best ideas happen in the shower for some reason, right? You're relaxed. You just got up. Your brain just woke up. So but not everyone works like that. I have many friends who can't function in the morning, right? They're nocturnal. They're at their best at 3 a.m., right? And that's something where even within animation, because you're working with a studio full of artists, at least, I personally try to nurture that, and that you work with people's schedules. Now you have tight deadlines, right? You have deadlines, and you have to get a hold of people during working hours when you need to, but as much as possible, let people work when they're their most comfortable, and they'll give you their best work,
Exactly. And that's something that I advocate for, and that a gentleman I'm friends with, Scott Circlin, he used to work at a gaming company. It was very much, it's work hard, play hard. As long as the work is turned on time, they tend to be pretty flexible with that. And he was talking about how he went from that environment into quite the opposite, and it just was not conducive to being creative at all. So
it's very, very true. I had a similar thing at another studio, I went to, and it kind of had a different work ethic in that way, that I found very creatively stifling, because they put you so much in a box, thinking that you turn creativity on and off like a light switch, that it just makes it a hostile workplace in a way, right, within yourself, because you're fighting yourself, and there'll be someone else who's doing great because that's perfect for them, but it's not perfect for everybody, right? So
yes, I suppose some people need that kind of structure, but I think for most creatives, the freeness. Of course, there's all different kinds of personalities and the way people like to work, but I can certainly sympathize or relate to your kind of style of working, and the style that you work with your team.
Yes. And it helps. So we definitely, I see us getting the best work out of people. It might not always be the best for the production people, which are the people, working on the schedule side of things. They may not always like that, as they tend to work on a 9 to 5 kind of schedule. But you know what you're getting into ahead of time, and you can schedule things correctly if you plan ahead. So
there's kind of a difference between situations that are trying to extract creativity as if it's a resource to be mined, and situations that are trying to foster creativity. And it sounds like you're setting up an environment that fosters creativity rather than extracts it, which tends to be a renewable resource rather than burning people out and then hiring somebody else who's
exactly where it's just bodies. There's a lot of places that feel like the show you're working on, that was the creative part. Oh, we created these mutant turtles or whatever, or we've created these magical ponies or whatever. A lot of people think that that's the creative part. Now we just need some workhorses to come in and draw it, right? And there is this kind of I don't want to say distancing, but certain places those are the work for hire types to get the work done. And I understand that there's a need for all that. But again, as artists, you got to give a little room for creativity for people to have a voice in what they're doing, or you're just getting stiff work that's there just to hit a deadline. And you'll see that there's not much care put into the work. So if you're looking just to get numbers, that works, right? Yeah, I can give you 1,000 storyboard panels today. Are they going to be good? Are they going to tell the stories that needs to be told? you know, that takes thought and room to think, you know. So, you know, but there's always gonna be that scale, right? The balance, a little give and take on both. But I do feel like you should nurture the artistic side if you're working in an artistic medium. Otherwise, you're working against yourself. And why are you in this business? You know, besides to make money, you know, but just on an emotional level, you still want to walk away with something you're proud of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, David, but I believe you were before the show. You had talked about you had some things you wanted to share. You had pulled some resources or something as far as inspiration. Was that correct?
Yeah, I can show some stuff. I pulled like 2 comics I really remembered as a kid from the 70s, 80s, possibly. Let me see here.
Now, do you have the ability to share?
I have some of my. I can share some of my monster covers here too.
Yes, so we would
awesome.
see those.
All right, so I am going to share my screen if it lets me. So I'm going to just show you a couple comics here.
All right.
Once it
will allow you to do that.
That's making me do my system preferences real quick. Hold on.
No worries, it'll be worth the wait.
And again, I just want to remind everyone.
It's not going to let me do it until I quit Google Chrome, but I'm going to call Bull on that. And let me see if I can show this now.
But what I was going to say, if anyone is curious, and not right now because we're live, but after the show, if you want to see David's work in progress, I wish I could remember the number, but there is a playlist, and if you go back, you can find the episode where we saw David create a comic book page right here on the Artcasters live. And like I said, in about an hour and a half, he created a whole comic book page, and it was quite interesting to see how quickly David works. And once you see that, you can see how he's able to be so productive, which I'm sure comes in handy when you're working on animated films and the like.
Yeah. Well, I can either hop off real quick and just hop back on.
Yeah, if that works.
It's just got to do the quick for the preferences. Hold on just a sec, everybody. I will be right back.
All right.
Sure thing. Now, so what is everyone else working on while we're waiting for David to return with his amazing artwork and inspiration? I don't know. Do any of you? I know Corey has mentioned that he's not quite a fan of horror, but I don't know. As far as Halloween, what are some of your experiences with Halloween, and does any of that influence the work that you do? Oh, there's David again.
Yeah, I do like things that probably could end up in a horror realm, but I'm just not a fan of like certain types of things that I'm now realizing are named like body horror, where there's those types of things.
The Cronenberg, yes,
very specific types of horror. All right,
yeah, but
or like a Daniel Klaus or something.
Yeah,
like
but I do love kind of weird, creepy distortions of natural things, and so mixing, matching, like monsters that are made out of like you can see reality in them. You can see the tentacles or the wings of the fly, or but just the, I don't know. So there's still stuff that I enjoy doing that are kind of in that realm. But
let's see if we see any of that in some of the artwork that David has to show for us.
Sweet.
Now let me see. Okay, there we go.
See my screen here. So this was one comic.
I don't think I've heard of that title.
Unexpected?
That's amazing.
Oh yeah. It's been around from, there was the 50s with Tales of the Unexpected. And then it went on through the 70s and 80s. And I remember getting this comic as a kid, 1979. So I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. And I remember getting this one. There's this one story by, that's Kaluta, but this sorry if I butcher this name, but Jodleman. There was this one story called Moonlight and Laughter, and this thing I loved. It was a werewolf story. And I remember I would just read this over and over because it was so different. Like the bottom right, this transformation, It was so different than at the time other kind of werewolves you saw. And this kind of reminded me of like the Howling movie, the way these guys were lit. But anyhow, he gets into this like crazy over the top battle, which I feel was like an influence on a lot of my comic work and stuff. Let me see. Yeah, it's just fighting with Madame Xanadu, fighting the werewolves. Okay, so here it turns into this fight in the graveyard where there was just like hundreds of werewolves and this guy with a machine gun and grenades and crap, and he's just like out for war. And there was just this image. I remember at this top image, I really loved a lot, as a kid. But anyhow, it turns out this werewolf that he ends up getting was his wife, his bride-to-be, that was attacked by werewolves on their wedding night. And he goes to kill them both with a grenade. I mean, I wasn't getting stories like that anywhere else.
And of course, this is during the time of the Comics Code authorities, so there's only so much you could get away with in horror. So I'm curious, being introduced to the horror type comics in this age, what happened when you eventually discovered, EC Comics and things like that?
Yeah, no, that was crazy. And honestly, I caught on to EC Comics when they. I don't know if you remember, they released these hardback books.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
In a slipcase, and they were black and white, with just the line art. And those were the ones I really gravitated towards, because at that point when I discovered those, I was aware of art and technique and inking and stuff. But yeah, with the pre-code stuff, I was like, there's so much, but there was so much that was just so over the top. I think that's part of where it becomes comedic in some respects. But the artists on there, Jack Davis, Al Feldstein, like these guys are awesome cartoonists doing horror, right? And that's something I always gravitated towards, was a little bit of the fun in it.
I always loved Jack Davis's horror stuff, because being introduced with him first through Mad Magazine, and then seeing how he handled the horror, and there's still that element of humor, like you said, in it, and it's just fascinating how somebody with that talent, how they can switch from something totally comical to something horrific.
Yeah, and it works. It's weird because it's not necessarily ultra realistic in a lot of respects, but and then this comic was another one, Weird War Tales. These I always just found weird because it was dealing, this whole series was dealing with war, and it was primarily Axis versus Allies kind of comics, but they always intertwine supernatural stuff. And there's this issue.
Oh wow!
I remember that creepy Nazi zombie on this first page here. Really kind of probably inspired me quite a bit. Well, there's a Jack Davis Slim Jim ad right there, which is beautiful.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
But there was this one particular issue had like this weird sci-fi story in that Mike Grell drew, who later went on did like Green Arrow stuff and things, which was awesome. But I don't know why, but it was this particular issue, these weird frog-like creatures did something to me. And that early Nazi drawing, that I have this issue and that Unexpected issue framed on my walls over here, the copies I had as a kid, because they actually have like ballpoint pen drawings on them of where I've traced something when I was really little or something, just trying to learn the shapes.
I have a few comics like that myself in my collection.
And then let me see what else I got here. Well, I can, since I got my screen up, I could share some of these comic covers.
Oh yes, we'd love to see those. So these are the homage covers you're talking about.
Yeah, so I got the original here. Like this is the original Gold Key Scooby-Doo, right? And I remember having that one as a kid. So I just did my version of it there.
I love it.
Let's see. The Living Vampire, which was let me see, I have it. Just doing my version. Again, it was just an homage to something that had an impact on me as a kid. Let's see what else I got here. Oh yeah, there was the original of this one. So just having fun with it. You know, and being able to see these comics with a more modern, like there's Mike Plug. Like his stuff was beautiful. This Werewolf by Night. And, you know, for me, it was just like, let's see what we would do with modern techniques. Chamber of Chills. Oh, here's a Casper. I don't know why I gravitated towards these books, but I love these freaking Harvey books. But I would have loved it more as a kid. You know, so I'd love
Casper doesn't look that friendly in your version.
No, I would tell you guys I'd be absolutely content if Harvey came back, Harvey Comics, and they just said, you know, we don't want anything new. We just want to take the old stories, just draw them. Just draw those same old stories, but with this style, that would be so much fun. Let's see. There's that Chamber of Chills. Oh, this Superman.
I remember seeing this one.
Yeah, Frankenstein and Dracula on there. Yeah, there was my version. But that I drew really fast. It's pretty sloppy. Where Monsters Dwell, which was this guy.
Okay.
I just remember that robot. But even now, it's like, I really like how he did the eyes there, you know, so you kind of learn. Oh, this is for our buddy Scott. I wish he was on here to see this. This was just kind of fun, making fun of, you know, old comics.
Oh, you'll have to send him a copy of that so he can see it.
Yeah, tooth extractor or a multi-headed chicken. How about a bronchial tube, kids? You can make monies and get prizes with fast-selling black market organs. And I just love this. Do not let us down. We have eyes everywhere. Do not try to deceive us, and you win a grand award in our $80,000 High Achiever Award. You have the opportunity to win this set of medieval cutlery. So, and then this one's I did not too long ago. Super Friends. This was not an homage cover. It was just a new cover, but like, what if they were all stitched together?
Yes.
You know? Good times. Good times.
I love that one.
Let's see what else I have on here. Well, since we're on here, here's some Monster Ween stuff. So this is just like real quick drawings in the morning, you know, off of these prompts. I had like Robo Scarecrow, Brain of the Maniac. I just get a lot of fun of just having an art community, of seeing other people who follow my stuff or like my stuff, and I get to see their creativity too, right? And I love seeing their takes on some of these things. So I just release these things. I literally come up with the names like the day of or the day before they're supposed to be up there, because I don't plan that far ahead. You know, so some of them are kind of goofy. Mollusk Man or Engineer of the Dead. Or let's see, we got the Living Blood Clot, the Hunchneck, Bride of the Mothman, Leroy and his mutant. And there's the one on the cover, Grave Robbing Yeti, and my favorite, Tarantula La La. So there we go.
Is he wearing a beret?
Yeah, he's a little French doing his ooh la la.
I love it.
Tarantula La. All right. Thank you for indulging me there.
No, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure looking at all the amazing stuff you're doing, and I'm sure the people watching are quite impressed and would love to see more of the work that you do.
Well, they can go to Instagram, plug David Hartman Art.
For sure.
That's where I do most of my posting.
So I assume we're seeing some of that if we're following you on the Facebooks too.
Yeah. I think they're all owned by the same people, right? So it just kind of goes to both.
as far as I know.
It's before your death or after your death.
Yes. So before I continue on, is there anything that Josh or Corey would like to interject?
I'm just like always stunned by the amount of work you're able to do, and then the fact that you're doing music as well. It's just really inspiring.
Thanks.
You were sort of mentioning that this is kind of all you do. Is that an exaggeration or a truth?
I'd say it's kind of a truth. I don't know how to really relax. Like, I've never really taken a vacation, and when I've tried, I'm just so stir crazy because I'm actually sitting on the couch drawing.
Yeah,
that is vacation for me.
Yeah,
that's what makes me happy. So getting away from that to go sightsee something, I don't know. That doesn't. It's fun for a day for me usually, but maybe 2 days. But beyond that, it's hard. So even when if I do take a vacation time off work, I'm usually just at home drawing other stuff.
yeah. That's the weird thing
maybe
about
I'm wasting out, missing out on a lot, or pushing myself too hard. I don't know, but I just know that's when I'm at my happiest, and
yeah.
what a real vacation is for me is like, oh, I'll go to San Diego Con for 2 days, right? And read other people's comics when I get back to my hotel room and stuff. And then, but that's still just to inspire you and recharge your batteries so that when you get back, you're just even more inspired. So, but I think I've told this before, like I kind of switched between them, Josh, like, so I don't get overly burned out on one.
Yeah.
I tend to draw monsters every day, whether they're just little sketches or what. But, I do music, so I don't get burned out on one thing or the other. And I do filming because I like to tell stories, but I like the medium of camera. Like, I like playing with cameras and lenses and lights and getting different looks. I just like to make things. So
yeah,
I'm less about trying to be a technical artist and more of, I just feel like I have stories I want to tell. And, I like sharing them with people and drawing, to get to it.
Yeah.
But I know if I really put myself to it, I could probably be a much better artist. But that's not necessarily where I find my happiness, I guess. To me, it's more about having stories to tell and stuff.
That's awesome.
And as far as what you were talking about is, as far as it being like just sitting at the couch and drawing and that being more of a vacation for you. I remember Scott, who couldn't be here tonight. He was recounting a story about how when he would get in trouble and get sent to his room, it was like the best thing ever because he could just sit there and draw. Like, you can't see your friends anymore, but that's okay.
Yeah.
No, what am I going to do? And just be sitting in the room drawing, and it was like the best thing ever. So not quite the best punishment.
No, that's how I was. I could keep myself entertained for long periods of time. So being grounded really didn't. all that took was the responsibility of hanging out with my friends out of the equation. And I would just do a bunch of fun comics and stuff to share with them when I got out. But it wasn't until my parents learned about yard work that then things changed. then it became kind of difficult. That's when real punishment begins.
And then you begin to draw a comic about how yard work is such torture. And
I know, right? Like that's the true horror. See, that's what really scares me, and I use this horror to get away from the real stuff. You know, hide from it, hide from yard work.
So David, with Halloween approaching, do you have any big plans for what you're going to do? I know you've talked a little bit about how on the night of Halloween you decorate your whole house very quickly and then take it, and that seems to be sort of a theme with you, is that everything is quite fast paced and just like, oh, I'm going to draw this comic book page in an hour and a half. Oh, I'm going to strike up my whole haunted neighborhood yard haunt in the night, and then I'll bring it back down again. So what do you have planned? Is there anything different planned for this eve?
No, it will be the same. I've been making some masks. Like, this is gonna be my Halloween costume right here. I've been making this guy for a few weeks though, so this one taking a little longer. He's called Nukenstein. It's Frankenstein, but he's nuclear powered.
Oh, fantastic!
I built this crazy contraption on his back with.
Hold on 1 second, so I can see
bugs.
a little better with my glasses on. Oh, fantastic!
I don't have a battery pack held up or connected yet, but this all lights up neon green. It's got these tubes that go down. I got a full costume build up with nuclear reactor tanks that this goes into. So you're going to have to post some pictures online. I definitely have to check that out. Yeah, I will. Fantastic. This is our nuclear family that we're making this year.
So have you drawn this particular character, or will you factor into any of your artwork?
This was just like a cheap plastic mask I found, and then I kind of resculpted on top of it and dremeled, and then everything else is just EVA foam. I kind of didn't know what I was making until I got into it. I just kind of started building like a little skull cap and add to it. Most of the top is just duct tape, and then been painted and sanded and stuff. But on the inside, it's literally just pieces of black tape that like stick to my hair and rip it out when I wear it and stuff. But it's worth it.
But it seems like it would be really interesting to take and actually draw a version of that character, and maybe even make a mock cover, or even you could do it in Photoshop.
That's a
or
good
something.
idea.
I'm not sure how that works, but have you in the costume holding up this cover of this particular character?
I might do that, Vincent. I will give you props for it.
All of these, I can see all of this menagerie of crazy creatures that are in your background. I can see how they would factor into a story all of their own. Each one of them, it's fascinating. So I was just curious if any of the homage covers and forgive me, I keep forgetting the name of your challenge. The
Monstroween,
not just Monsterween, but Monstroween.
Yes.
So the Monstroween, I wonder if any of those inspire you to create some of the costume creations that you put together.
Surprisingly not, but I think there's always like returning themes in all my stuff. So it kind of, I just want to make something new as opposed to designing. I'm not trying to recreate something. I'm more of like what's going to come out as I'm doing it. And it's more like kit bashing or something, right? Like, what do I find just sitting around the garage?
Right.
That would inspire me to build like this big apparatus on the back of his head. I mean, like I got these things holding these wires, but they're just like dull applesauce cups. I eat applesauce for lunch, it's just, but then it's like, oh, I got to cover up the logo. So I'll make rivets and stuff. But, again, that's like something where this has taken a while because I'll only work on this for like maybe an hour or two on a weekend. And then I'm kind of like, okay, I'm starting to get tired. I'm going to go work on this other thing now, right? I'm going to go do some music for a while or or something. I just try not to get burned out on one thing too fast.
Yeah.
Yes, I know the feeling. So when you're approaching a mask like this, or a costume or whatever do you have something in your mind of what it's going to look like, or is it just like, oh, I'll just pop this on here, or I could use this, like you said, the food cups, fruit cups, and things like that.
No, I knew I wanted a skull, because that's kind of what I love, being these kind of skull-like creatures. So I started with that, and started building the skull, and then I was like, oh, I need the top of this skull to cover more of my head. And then as I'm doing that, I'm looking, and it's like, oh, there's an empty box of Cheerios there. Well, I can take that box. What if I put it on the back of the head? And so I cut a hole and just kind of place it there. And it's like, okay, I'll start building EVA foam over top of that, or whatever. It's just finding stuff as you go. Like you might like this thing. It's like, this lights up green, but what it is it's a blister pack from an action figure, right? So it opens up, and I got my wires in there, but that's all it is, just a little blister pack. And it's like, oh, I got one of those laying around. So
is it fairly lightweight? So when you put it on your head, you're not just toppling over?
Yeah, no, it's totally lightweight, except for the neck brace. I totally go Michael Keaton Batman or RoboCop, where you're can't really look down or anywhere. But
and you mentioned that you're doing a whole family of these nuclear.
So my daughter and my wife, they get into it too, and we kind of. So what we do is, I'd say every other year we make a theme. So, I kind of started this theme this year with this, and my daughter's being the mad scientist that made me, and she's making this metal arm, with long finger extensions and with tubes that hook up to a mask and stuff. And my wife's being this kind of biohazard mutant. And, we'll do that. But then actually my favorite, those are fun to be creative, but then my favorite are the off years, because we have so much crap. Like, we have this spare room, and it's just completely packed with, movie props that we've made or costumes, because I can't destroy these things. I loved making them, so we got so many of them that we just go in literally, again, it's the quick, do it fast, like maybe 15-20 minutes before the kids go start trick-or-treating. We all run in and raid the closet and just build a costume, right? Whatever parts we have laying around, you kind of build something and just
so you kind of repurpose some of the existing masks.
Yeah, it's like, I'll take the gloves from this and part of this mask, but wear it with this other jacket, and we make up a new character and a new backstory, and that's kind of fun, and maybe the whole quickness of everything we talked about, just talking about it and self-reflecting. Part of it, I think, is being impulsive and going more with my gut instinct, because the second I start overthinking things, I second guess myself, right? And I will talk myself out of thinking anything I'm doing is a good idea or a waste of time. So, if I think, oh my God, you're building cereal boxes, dude, you got 3 illustrations waiting for you over here, and you're doing a TV show, you shouldn't be messing with cereal boxes right now. Like, I'll turn into that person. So I think maybe I do everything quick, so I don't have time to be logical about what I'm doing.
Speaking of cereal boxes and your and your homage covers, have you ever done an homage cover to some of the monster cereals? I'm wondering.
I not an homage cover. I did Frankenberry and Count Chocula drawings and posted them before, and Boo Berry and Yummy Mummy and Fruit Brute. Gotta get them all in there, but yes. But another good homage cover, Vincent. So
yes, I would actually love to see. And there's so many different
Vincent
versions.
Price's Ghost presents.
I love it. Yes, so it's funny because I was talking to our friend Scott Circlin the other day, and he was talking about how or actually, he was again recounting the story of he was out just recently, I believe it was today, out putting out his Halloween decorations, and a neighbor would drive by and is like, nothing like waiting till the last minute. And he was saying how he thought of you in that moment of like, well, it's not Halloween night already, so I think I got a little bit of, I think I got it a little bit ahead of time, plenty of time, because as long as it's out on Halloween, I mean,
where I'm at, I'm kind of up in the hills, and it gets pretty windy. So, also I don't have to worry about any of my gravestones.
Yes, those foam gravestones
into the neighbors, or cobwebs blowing off. So
I've seen that. I've seen that happen firsthand. I had to chase a few down. So that's always a problem.
Yeah.
I've since then I've taken to reinforcing the backs of the foam gravestones and putting a thin wood backing so you can kind of drill through it with a wood stake, and it seems to work a little bit better. So
that's a good idea.
But again, I guess I'm again just fascinated by what you do with Halloween and everything, and I'm wondering, because I've noticed a certain decline in the number of trick-or-treaters and people that come out, but I imagine you probably built somewhat of a reputation in your neighborhood, to whereas you probably get a decent amount of trick-or-treaters just to come see what the spectacle is all about.
Yeah, when I first moved to California, because I'm used to kind of Midwestern Halloween, it's different because the trees weren't changing color. I didn't see a lot of houses celebrating early, and I remember when I got my first house, I'm like, we're doing it big. I had like 8 friends over, and we did our version of the Universal Monsters, but they were all kind of like different. Like I was Frankenstein's bones, so I was just a skeleton. I made these large boots that made me like 8 feet tall. My wife was like the mummy, and she made the full mummy wrapped outfit. And I remember it got crazy where people kept coming back, and parents and stuff. And at the end, I remember this big crowd of adults coming towards us, where I had to constantly remind myself, oh, I'm one of those. I am an adult now. There are consequences to my actions. And this group came, and all I could think of was like, I was telling my friends, like, oh my God, guys, like, we are the Universal Monsters, and here come the angry villagers to burn us all down, right? And they all applauded us, and they were saying this was so much fun, and they loved that we were helping bring in Halloween, and they all decorated and started doing the garage, haunts and stuff. And the neighborhood I'm at now, all our neighbors, it was a brand new neighborhood when we moved in, and now it's gotten bigger, and all our neighbors, I feel like, outdo us, but because they're out all year long, I have to stick to my night of scare the kids. The house is normal the next morning. Nothing happened. Nothing took place here.
I love it.
Part of that is just the mystique of, like, if I was a kid, I know that would freak me out a little. Like, when I get out, we have dinner, and when I get out of dinner, that house over there looks different, and they don't necessarily know how we build it because they're not seeing the pieces in the daytime, right? So,
it's almost, it adds a little bit
maybe
of a mystery.
I'm lazy too. It might just be that I'm just freaking lazy. Just like, okay, let's wait till the last minute. I'm taking this down because I don't want to do it in the morning because I'm drawing the next comic book in bed, right? So I don't have time to tear down cobwebs.
Yeah, lazy or not, I think it does add a little bit of a mystery. Like it comes out of nowhere and then it's gone, and it's like, did I really just see that last night? There's no evidence of it being here anymore.
So we have a lot of returning kids now, and it's gotten bigger for us, which is great. We don't do a full haunt or anything like that. It's just enough to scare the kids and get dressed up and and get a couple screams here and there, and that's all worth it.
So just a little bit of a tangent, if you will. So going back, you were talking about how you built this 8-foot Frankenstein costume. I just a little curious about how tall are you, David?
I'm 6 foot.
Okay,
5'11".
so I figured you're a little fairly tall because the reason why I'm asking because in looking at some of your artwork and things on your Instagram, I noticed and we have had we brought up the fact that you are a director on one of the Phantasm films. I believe it's the latest.
Yeah.
But I saw a picture of you next to Tall Man, and you towered over here. I believe this is the Tall Man, if I'm not mistaken. Was that the actor that played the Tall Man that you were standing next to? And it's like he looked rather short, so I wonder if that was
not sure.
magic.
That might have been Reggie.
Oh, it might have been.
Was he
maybe
bald?
maybe he's just older. Yeah, maybe he's just older now. So I was
that might have been that might have been one of the other.
Okay.
But Tall Man, when he was older, lost a couple inches, but he was still taller than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just a little bit of a confusion on my part. I just thought it was odd if it was the Tall Man. He's not so tall at all now, is he?
No, but yeah, it's like to make those Frankenstein. I just love. I get step stools. Like just the kind you get from like Home Depot or something for the kitchen or bathroom, and put 2 of them together, duct tape them to some shoes, and then build a giant shoe around it, and it makes it perfect because it's a step stool. You're not gonna fall really, but you are walking with these giant step stools. But because they're hollow, they make the coolest freaking noise when you step. It's this kind of echoey, like it really adds to the feel. So for anybody out there wanting to be something tall, step stools. Those are the best. Don't get those shoe extensions. Those will break your ankles.
Yeah, well, I can tell you our guest the one who hosted the last Halloween, Gene Simmons, wears those tall boots, and they're very difficult to walk in. but we as much as I in the spirit of Halloween, and I would love to continue talking about all of this amazing stuff because I wish I'm like you, David. I'm sure, and you can tell probably by my body of work that Halloween holds a special place in my heart, and I wish every day could be Halloween, but unfortunately it can't. And unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. But before we end the show, is there anything that you wanted to mention, maybe, or any questions from either Corey or Joshua that you would like to ask before we start, closing out the show?
There's honestly just too much. Like every time, David, that we have you on the show, there's just you have a fascinating career, and
Thank you.
So honestly, I worry about opening the Pandora's box of asking more questions at this point. But I am still just amazed by like what you're able to kind of balance, and I love the fact that everything you do is kind of dedicated to creativity. I think it's a good example for people. I think of like how to do creative.
Well, it's taken me a while to reach that point mentally. There is this point where you do have a job and you feel a little bit more comfortable that you can take risks and other things to pursue what you love, right?
For sure.
That just happens with age and as you move on in life. But for those that are younger, you definitely should be true to what you like and what you like to draw and what inspires you. It's not saying don't go out your comfort zone. You should. That's how you grow. But don't be afraid to just pursue what you like as well, and you'll find. At least for me personally, you've been able to find the work. that generates towards it may just happen naturally or unnaturally, but just by pursuing what you love more, at least gets you into the crowds of things that might open doors into areas that you like more, as opposed to maybe doing something that you don't like and don't see a future in.
Yeah.
I love it, and just I'm going to have to pull up this. This gets the dad joke award of the year. But Frank says he married a bar stool once. His kids were his step stools. Thank you, Frank, for that.
Thank you, Frank.
All right. Having said that, let's go around the room once again and say our fare thee wells. Oh, did you just do that while we were here? While we're talking?
It's beautiful.
So, let's kind of go around the room and say our fare thee wells, so to speak. So, Joshua, who's working on a book that actually has to do a little bit with the supernatural, which is something I'm quite fond of. So, Josh, where can everyone? Well, they can't find the book that you're working on now, but you can find some videos on you creating it as you are doing now. So,
yes,
that plus anything else you would like to talk about.
Not
talk about, but close the show out with.
So this is Not Death But Love, a book where I'm working on for Turner Publishing, and then I have Jacob's Apartment, which you should go out.
Turner Publishing. Before I thought it was like West Margin or something like that.
Yeah, they got bought out.
Okay.
So Jacob's Apartment is available from Graphic Mundi, and this is a really great slice of life story about a young romance where dreams and reality intertwine. And if you mixed Eternal Sunshine from the Spotless Mind with Ghost World and put them in a blender, you like that flavor, you'd like this book. And then 2 stories, my graphic novel about faith and mental illness. Those are all my wares. And then my music, No Saboteurs. Yeah.
All right. And Corey, I thought you were sleeping there for a second, Corey. Or either that or you froze again. And I'm honestly kind of concerned that you might actually freeze to death where you are right now in that garage.
It's possible. Yeah, it's very possible.
I get a very Jack Torrance vibe right now from the end of that movie.
I'm layering all kinds of things to try to avoid that fate. But yeah. If anybody's interested in hearing me ramble on about some actual horrors and atrocities that are happening in real life, then you can jump onto my website and see kind of the esoteric Crumble Flux series that I'm working on right now, which is talking about the tech billionaires that are trying to invade and manipulate our minds, and some of those types of things. And those are all kind of on the email newsletter, also available on YouTube and Instagram.
Now, are any of these designs? I know you've been teasing this, but have any of these designs made their ways to T-shirts or?
Not yet. Not yet. I think I'm going to try to get 4 to 6 of them done, and then kind of go into T-shirts and some of the merch and stuff. But yeah, I might do them in groups of what I produce each month. We'll kind of go into a batch, and I'll release a batch at a time or something.
Cool.
So.
Cool. Now, of course, let's get to our special guest this evening. Our returning guest. Seems like every Halloween, and we would love to, of course, have you back next Halloween. I don't know if I'll be hosting or some other gentleman. Who knows what can happen on Halloween? But so David, and again, hopefully maybe we can have you on before Halloween, because it's always great to talk to you. And I'm sure Scott would like to talk to you himself. He doesn't get a chance to do that much. It's either, myself or Gene Simmons or somebody. We just kind of push him out of the way and like, no, sorry, we need to bring in the big guns for this one. But David, is anything that you want to point people to where they can find you, or anything you have right now on Netflix or anything like that you'd like to point people
my
towards?
one show Tresse is still on Netflix. It's a supernatural horror based off of a Filipino comic book. I directed on that and storyboarded on all the episodes. Some of the other stuff I can talk about, I'll have a book coming up hopefully soon through Dark Horse. We'll have my music Zorgon is out, the new song from through Monster Forge. It's called Ring the Bells. That is out now. I'll probably have a new album out early next year. And I'm working on some other comic stuff right now. So hopefully I'll have some more stuff to share next time we talk.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. I love it. I love all of it. And I wish we could do this every day. Like I said, Halloween is my favorite time of the year. And I'm looking forward to Halloween. And be sure to, David, please be sure to take many pictures or videos or whatever you can of I would just love to see, or if there's something already that exists. I'm sorry?
Yes, I will. I will send some stuff to you, Vincent. Through Scott, Perfect. Your friend Scott will to you.
Yes, I mean, I would just love to see what you're doing for Halloween night. I'm just fascinated. Especially, I want to see how this costume that you're working on comes together. But anyway, so until next time. Well, I guess we have some more business to get out of the way. So this show, the Artcasters, we do every single. It's not me personally. I'll probably, you might not see me ever again, if at all, maybe next Halloween. But if there's enough demand to bring me back, or like I said, it may be some other gentleman, or who knows? It could be a creature, or one of David's creations might host the show. Who knows what could happen? But before that, you can see Scott and Josh and Corey and their various guests who rotate back and forth, and also the show rotates back and forth from channel to channel. It gets a little confusing, but if you want to, and I've got a dog here who wants some attention. Be gone, hell beast! Now, now, where was it? Oh yes. So the Artcasters show, we do this show or like I said, these other gentlemen do the show. I just watch. I'm always there watching, lurking in the shadows. But if you want to know how to find when the show goes live and all of that stuff, there is a link in the description. And you can also find hey. The dog is going after the candles, evidently. So luckily they're just prop candles, so they won't burn the house down.
Okay.
No need to worry. So where was I? So yes, there's a link in the description, and there's also a link in the description to where you can find David's stuff. It's also right up here. You can also, just if you want to type it in, but if you're not much for typing, if you just want to click on it, you can find David's stuff. But join the mailing list, and we don't spam you or anything like that. All we do is, before we go live about at least 30 minutes, we alert you to let you know that there's a show, what channel it's going to be on, who the guest is going to be, what the topic is going to be. So definitely check that out. And with that, I have been your host, Vincent Price. And where's my sound effect? This has been the Artcasters, and we will see you next Halloween.